Evening, everybody. It's 5:57 on Monday, the 28th, and this is your closing comment. It is video 1557 for this Monday afternoon, and all I can say is welcome back to the real world. Um, Chart on the screen is the S&P. I knew that this was going to be a tough area. Naturally, it went a little further than I thought it would on the upside. But we ran smack into a lower high on Friday, which was a very narrow half day. Today we gapped to the downside and just continued on. We did rally back a little bit for the Dow to close down 497 and the S&P, this chart, down 62.81. And it was only $10 off the low. The low was 39.60. We closed 39.70. Um, you know, I think that people need to understand how serious the Fed is and how petrified they are of screwing this up. So we have tax selling that comes in this time of the year. We have a Santa Claus rally that's not for another 3 weeks. We have the January effect, which is some of the smaller cap companies that people took the losses on right now, and they wait 31 days to buy them back into the new year. But more than that, the real world is catching up to some of the biggest names here. Um, Apple, 144.38, down 373. That's roughly 30 or 35 Dow points. Same situation with Disney, 95.60, down 327, 3.3%. That is also another 30 to the downside. I mean, this is the way that this market went. The issue with Apple was all of the on public display issues with Foxconn and the Chinese government, and wanting to keep people essentially at work by force if necessary. So we had that problem. And naturally, the Disney issue was twofold because while it does have a good movie out, its most recent two um, animated films. This weekend was can't remember what the this weekend was Strange Things. The other one is Lightyear, which is a Buzz Lightyear one. They're both horrendous. Um, on a forget about a weekend. This was a 5 day period from Wednesday through Sunday night, which included the holiday and the weekend. A total of 18.1 million. Really poor. Um, we also had Dollar General, which reports pretty soon. And the problem there is not so much what they're going to do, because this lower end should actually be fairly buoyant if things turn down, the same way that we look at Ross Stores or TJX, the company that owns TJ Maxx and Marshalls and Home Goods. They tend to be able to survive, even profit, because they're buying all of that excess inventory that you heard about. CVX, now the oil closed up 96 cents on the day at 77.24, but during the day it was as low as 73.60. The reason I mention that is because Chevron got an okay from the government to start pumping oil again in Venezuela. I don't know how much that's going to turn out to be, but this morning when we talked about it, CVX was about 180 and a half. It managed to close, and that was down. It managed to close 178.54, down 516 or 2.8%. So not a great performance. And on the dollar gen, the stock closed 253, down 413, but the number of puts being bought dramatically um, outsized the calls, and they report. Let me just see when they report it soon. Okay, they report on December 1st. So, really, just the end of the week. The problem there is that people are betting that dollar gen is going to be somewhere south of 240. 253 right now. We're talking about they're playing the put spread. Long the 240 put, short the 230 puts, and they're costing about 1.5 or $2. So what you're talking about is a move from 253 to a minimum of 238, so $15, um, in order for those to even be break even. So we'll have to see how that goes. Two stocks on opposite sides of the same deal, not deal, but issue. Um, AXSM and some therapeutics met its endpoints for an Alzheimer's drug, kind of the holy grail. This morning, when I mentioned it, it was 64, up about 7. The low for the day, when it opened in the real world, was 68 and change. It got as high as 79.68, and the last that I have right now is 74.65, and that's up 17.83 or 31%. On the other side of the coin, we have Biogen IDEC, who reported the second death in their trial for their Alzheimer's drug. This has been an issue with Biogen, uh, not the deaths per se, but you have all of these issues about Alzheimer's. They reported back in 2020 that they had positive results. That particular day, let's see, yeah, that particular day, the stock went from 250 to 365, calmed back down, stayed in the area around 250, 247. They had another announcement in, let's see, that was in June of 21, where the stock went from 286 to 468 and closed 395, and then came all the way back down to where we are, or where we were about a week and a half ago, down below 200. They had some good results, and the stock ran up to 276 in the end of September of this year, up 80 points, continued higher. But today ran into a buzzsaw. The high on Friday was 307. Today's low was 290. So it hasn't really gotten terribly hurt. But it did close down 1344 at 291.71. So uh, that's what's going on there. And one really surprising deal, not so much that it's with a small company with a bigger company, but it's a 30-year deal. Taboola, TBLA. This was a uh, new issue. Let's see, here's the chart. It was a new issue. Um, let's see. The high for which was $11.44. And you can see what it did over the period of last June, I think. Yeah, the end of last June, touched $1.79 2 weeks ago, and today had a phenomenal day in the afternoon. It closed yesterday at $1.84. The low today was $2.40, high $3.27. Currently 264, and that 264 is up about 80 cents. So over 40%. They have a deal with Yahoo, a 30-year deal with Yahoo. And, I'm assuming that that has more to do with the fact that we've had problems because of the iOS issues that Apple put in front of Facebook, Meta, about targeted advertising. And so advertising has, these guys are just doing it a different way on a smaller scale. They're less expensive. And again, a 30-year deal. So the stock, as you can see, is $2.50, 264. Just as a matter of information, there are also warrants for this. While the stock had a high of 11.44, the warrants had a high of 16.20 and a low of 14 cents. And they closed today at 37 cents, up 2 cents, and had a high during the day of 58 cents. So, I'm not recommending them. I'm just telling you they're out there, they exist. And I'm fairly certain that we're going to see some fireworks out of that in the next, you know, see how long this stays in the news. Okay, so we had the oil up 96 cents, gold was down 13 and a half, and silver was down 48 cents. I mentioned that because, as I mentioned before and in last night's letter, the silver often outperforms the gold, upside and downside. Last week, the gold was basically unchanged and the silver was up 2.1%, up 43 cents. Today, the gold was down 13 and a half, which is 0.76, 3/4 of a percent. And the silver at 21.12, down 48 cents, was 2.24%. So, 3 to 1 on the upside sometimes, 3 to 1 on the downside sometimes. So that's where we are. Bitcoin down 300. The dollar got some strength here. It wasn't from higher rates from the bonds because the bonds closed up or down a couple of basis points. Let's see. The 30-year up, well, this is tonight. During the day today, it closed down, I think, 3 ticks. Nat gas, which has been tremendous, 719, down 13 cents. So not much there. All right. Starting tomorrow, we have all of those economic numbers starting to come. 9 o'clock is both FHFA housing price index. The prior was down 7/10. I don't know what the expected is. Also, the September Case-Shiller home index. Consensus is about 10.7, and the prior reading was 13.1. And then after the markets open at 10 o'clock, we have the November consumer confidence. And during this week we have GDP, we have PCE. I mean, there's a mountain of stuff for us to digest and for the market to digest. So that's where we are, folks. I'll be back first thing in the morning. Welcome back to reality.